Hi and welcome to another gaming live stream. And today I want to talk about the Nintendo Switch Micro. Now, I've got to point out this is not a leak, this is not a rumor, this is not anything that is even remotely going to come out. Well, I don't think so. Anyway, but would you be interested in a Nintendo Switch that was even smaller than the Switch Lite? So I'm not a big fan of the full-size Switch or the OLED. I've got a Switch Lite and it's fantastic. But what about going even smaller? A Nintendo Switch Micro. Now, there are a few problems with that kind of system. First of all, I don't even think the Switch is really designed to be played in its sort of handheld mode and the Switch Lite. I've noticed that there are a few games that are really designed to be put on the TV, and when you play them in handheld mode, especially on a Lite with the smaller screen, you can't really read what's on the screen. So making a Switch Micro, which is even smaller, would run into some issues there. But it wouldn't be the first time that Nintendo have gone down the micro route. We had the Game Boy Micro, which was like a very small Game Boy Advance. It had a 2-inch screen, which ran into the same problems because obviously the Game Boy Advance wasn't originally designed with a 2-inch screen. It was something like a 3-inch. And when they brought out the Game Boy Micro, fantastic little console, but it did run into those. You couldn't really see what was on the screen if it was text heavy and bearing in mind that a lot of Super Nintendo games were ported to the Game Boy Advance. Obviously, Super Nintendo was designed for a TV. You then put them on the regular Game Boy Advance, and it was really hard to read what was there. And then that was also put down onto the Game Boy Micro. It really made it was just super small. So you'd run into those issues again, I think, if Nintendo were to bring out a Nintendo Switch Micro. And I'm thinking along the lines of something the size of a DS, or like the bottom half of a DS. If any of you have heard of like the Game Boy Macros, it's where you take off the top half of a DS and you just use the bottom to play Game Boy Advance games. If we were to have some kind of Switch Micro with either a 3-inch screen like you got on a DS, or even like you get on a DSi XL, just the bottom half of a DSi XL with its 4-inch screens, same sort of control system where it's flanked the screen like on the Switch Lite, but it's just a lot smaller and a lot more compact. I'd go for that, I think. But can they cram that in a case that size? And then you've got sort of battery life to think about as well. DS Lite, DSi XL had fantastic battery life, but they were on really sort of low powered devices. To try and squeeze the Switch into a device with a 4-inch screen or a 3-inch screen and still have a decent amount of battery life, that's going to be a real difficult one. So look, we've just got a person dropped in, a comment dropped in, Leapy Leaf. Switch Micro would be amazing. The only thing that prevents me from taking my Switch out is how large it is compared to a compact foldable 3DS. And yeah, that is some of the reason that a lot of people don't take it. We've got Switches in our house, and to take them out, it's a big palaver. It's a big box, a big padded case with a fairly sized console inside. Even with a Switch Lite, if you buy just a dedicated Switch Lite case, it's still a bit of a chunk of a console. 3DS or the DS were fantastic because you really didn't even need to put them in cases. They had absolutely amazing battery life, so you just charged them up, clamshell design, put it in your pocket, put it in your bag. Absolutely superb, small console, decent battery life, and the folding thing really did protect the screen. Yeah, I get that. I've had DSs. I've had DS XLs, DSi XLs, the 3DS, new 3DS XL, and as much as I love the larger size of those XL consoles, it makes the size of the machine a lot bigger, and a little less pocketable. If we were to go down this whole sort of Switch Micro thing, you wouldn't have the fold-in design, so you'd still have that issue where it would need a case to protect it, but it wouldn't be as big and as bulky as even a Switch Lite when you're taking it out and about. So that is a very good point. It's something I would love to see. Someone somewhere must have mocked up one of these Switch Micro, DS Micro, whatever you want to call it. So essentially a Nintendo Switch in a DS Lite or even a DSi XL case, or at least that size. It would give you, it gives you the size and the representation. It would be great, because you could take sort of like the Switch Lite form factor with its round corners, and then you take something like the bottom half of a DSi XL or a DSi, round the corners off, and you've got this little tiny compact Nintendo Switch for absolute ultra portability. But like I said, how are they going to manage that with battery life? The battery life on a Switch Lite takes a hit from the regular Switch, because of the size of it. I think the size of the device itself. So to shrink that down even further, you're really going to be looking at a device that's going to need sort of handle 3 or 4 hours worth of battery. But it is something I would be interested in, not necessarily to buy, because I've got a Switch Lite. It's small. My son came in the other day and was watching me play Bulletstorm on my Switch Lite, and he's got an OLED Switch. He hasn't really seen or sort of handled my Switch Lite, and he had a bit of a look at it, and he thought, well, no, this is too small. My hands are too big. So maybe a Switch Micro would be aimed more at younger children, although that is really what the Switch Lite is about. There were rumours about Nintendo, and I think this was a few months ago, some patent somewhere of an even smaller or a revised Switch Lite, with the tag of Switch Micro as its name. But I'm not sure Nintendo are even on that radar. Their concentration now is on the Switch 2, but we could see a revised Switch Lite, possibly with a smaller screen, and it would take the form of this sort of Switch Micro. It's an interesting idea. It's an interesting concept, and it's I like the size of the older consoles, the DSs and the DSIs and the DSi XL. I've had a new 3DS XL and a new 2DS XL, and they are big. They're big by themselves. If you put them in a case, that makes them even bigger. My sort of portable console outside of my Switch that I would take around with me is my DSi XL, but I don't put that in a case. And I recently went, well, I say that about 4 or 5 months ago, I went on a week trip, and I took nothing but my DS Lite with me. Super durable, super small. Doesn't really need to be going in a case because it was a bit scratched anyway. So the case really is for sort of devices like the Vita or the PSP or the Switch, where you need to protect the screen. But obviously, being clamshell DS Lites, etc., that can be just shut and shoved in a bag, and that was a great thing. I didn't really want to take my Vita with me or my Switch Lite with me. I wanted something that was ultra portable, ultra compact, and a Switch Micro, a Switch with a 3-inch screen. That would be a real cool little thing to do. I'm gonna go off when I finish this video and see if there are any mods around, to see if there's anyone that has mocked some up, even if it's just it's like concept ideas. Because I do think there probably is a market for it. At the start of this video, I was talking about the Game Boy Micro. It was a very odd placement for Nintendo because it was released right at the end. It was released in 2005, by which point we'd already had the DS. So to bring out another Game Boy Advance, it was more of a collector's for those sort of die-hard Nintendo fans, and great little console. Lots of limitations on it. You couldn't play original Game Boy Color games on it. It was a niche little device, and I think a Switch Micro would also be a very niche device and not massively profitable for Nintendo. But it's an interesting idea. So, would you be interested in a Switch Micro, a Switch with a 3 or a 4-inch screen, or do you think the Switch Lite is small enough? I know a lot of people that don't like the Switch Lite because of its small screen. You've got a 5.5-inch screen on the Switch Lite, 6.2 on the regular Switch, 7 inches on a Switch OLED, and the new Switch 2 is reportedly going to have an 8-inch screen. So it looks as if Nintendo are going larger with screen sizes, but could they cater? Well, let's have a look. Maybe the Switch 2 Lite, because at some point Nintendo are going to revise the Switch 2. Maybe they will go for an ultra portable Switch 2 with maybe a 4.5-inch screen, or not. I don't know. But it's just a thought. Like I said, I've not read this anywhere. This is not a breaking news or patents. There's nothing about it. This is just a thought. A Switch Micro. Would you be interested in a Switch with a 3 or a 4-inch screen? Let me know. And only one comment today. So thank you, Leapy Leaf. And link, like, subscribe, enjoy.